Our opening words are by Sean Neil Barron, Territorial Acknowledgement. We gather together as a community of seekers to honor the interdependence of life, to respect the dignity in all, and honor the land we humbly walk upon. Let us acknowledge that we walk upon the traditional territories of the Miami and Lenape communities, the original nations right here where we walk, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. We are blessed with a space and an opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to live out our dream of a world community of peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Now for our chalice lighting by Richard M. Fuchs. The light of truth. May the light of truth illuminate our minds. May the spark of love set our hearts on fire. May the flame of freedom burn brightly within us, now and always. Now, I want to introduce Reverend Mary Ann Macklin. She is going to introduce the song that we are about to sing. Take it away.
I will. So the tune is a German folk tune, and the name of the song is Die Gedanken sind frei. And I wanted to introduce it because it was a popular protest song against political repression and censorship in the mid-1800s. You hear the tune, it just sounds so, well, folk and happy. And the song was important to certain anti-Nazi resistance movements in Germany. In 1942, Sophie Scholl, a member of the White Rose Resistance Group, played the song on her flute outside the walls of the Ulm prison, where her father, Robert, had been detained for calling the Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler a scourge of God. And so he was in there, and she was playing this protest song out there. And every time I say that, I get chills. In 1935, guards at the Lichtenberg concentration camp compelled prisoners to perform in honor of Hitler's 46th birthday. And so in response, a lawyer named Hans Litten sang Die Gedanken sind frei. And so later in 1966, American musician Pete Seeger included it and an adapted version of the song on his album entitled Dangerous Songs. So this is a powerful song, light melody, but I invite you to sing. There's one point where the old version, it says man, and in our hymnal it says one, like we won as one, we sing.
And now, Reverend Mary Ann Macklin has a story for us.
A story for all ages.
Oh, a story for all ages.
Yeah. Pretty cool. I know. I'm all libertied out today. So this book, and I think we will all enjoy this, is called Her Right Foot. And I want to show you this before we start, because essentially the statue is like this. And how many of you have seen the Statue of Liberty? This foot is like going forward. So she's like this. In her hand is this book. This will probably be in the thing, saying July 4th, 1776, right? Originally, the shackles, which you find the broken shackles, because it's breaking, part of it was breaking away from slavery and the end of the Civil War, used to be in the hands. And it was much more prominent. The statue happened like 20 years after the Civil War ended. And for some reason, the broken shackles got dropped a little bit, which I wish they would have stayed in her hand as opposed to, but this is the way it is. but this is called her right foot. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty comes from France? And feel free to say, yes. This is true. This is a factual book. One day, a Frenchman named Edouard de Loubalet had an idea. The idea was to celebrate the 100 years the United States of America had been around by giving them a giant sculpture. He was also very excited about the end of the Civil War. He said he loved America, but he loved it even more because of what the freedom had been and that we had abolished slavery. So he convinced another Frenchman, a Frenchman with an Italian last name, to design the sculpture. The artist's name was Frédéric Auguste Bertoldi. Bertoldi designed the statue. Oh, do you want me to stand over here? Okay, sorry about that. I thought I was. So many of you know this too. He first made small sculptures until the one we know today, which stands on a pedestal, and with all of it is 300 feet above water. The final full-size version was covered with a thin copper skin, so it was this color. And it was about as thick as 2 pennies, which is not very thick when you think of it. And here is a rendering of Bertoldi and his team. He had a team. He did not work alone. He did not like working alone, constructing the statue's hand. Notice the hand is much larger than these men. Thus, they made the statue in many parts. These parts were assembled in New York City. No, wait. I love this book. First, they were assembled in Paris. Did you know this? Oh, you guys are great. Ask your friends and even your teachers if they knew that before the Statue of Liberty was assembled in New York, she was constructed in Paris. Your friends and teachers will be astounded. They will be impressed. They might think you're fibbing. But you're not fibbing. This really happened. The Statue of Liberty stood there high above Paris for almost a year. And then they assembled the statue, the one that was a statue in Paris. They had to take it apart. And this guy said, but we just put it together. This is absurd. They said all this in French, the language of the French. Did you know that? Yes. And people who appreciate the absurd. In 1885, after they took it apart, they put the parts in 240 crates and put these crates on a boat. The boat was called the Isere. The boat traveled over the Atlantic Ocean and made the way to the city, New York, which is in a state called New York. So they went to Bedloe's Island. Now over here is Ellis Island, here's Bedloe's Island. Hundreds of workers, perhaps 214 because there were 214 boxes, then began to rivet the pieces together. Assembling the statue took 17 months, and it all happened there on what was then called Bedloe's Island. It later became Liberty Island. You may have noticed now in the pictures of the Statue of Liberty that we've been showing that the statue is brown. You may have thought the illustrator of this book was not so good at their job. We all know the Statue of Liberty to be a certain kind of greenish blue, but the Statue of Liberty, as we said, was made of copper, and that starts out brown. Then slowly, after periods of time, it oxidizes and it turns green. I think it took about 35 years for that to happen. And you may know the book of the statue that is in her left hand features the date July 4th, 1776, on which the Declaration of Independence was signed, and we just had that recognition of the 250th anniversary. And you probably know the torch she carries is a symbol of enlightenment. That was the original idea. It was the Lady of Enlightenment, and that was what was going on, lighting the path to liberty and freedom. And did you know the interior of the statue was designed by another Frenchman by the name of Eiffel? That's right, the same Eiffel who was a few years later would design the Eiffel Tower. So if you look at the construction underneath, it looks very Eiffel Tower-like. And then there's one thing you might not know, and this is the central point to this book, a point the author apologizes for taking so long to get to. Must be a preacher. The point is that even if you have seen pictures of the Statue of Liberty or many pictures of the Statue of Liberty or hundreds of them, you may not have seen all of them of her feet. And there they are. And even if you've seen some pictures of her feet, you might not have seen the back of her right foot. And that's what I showed you earlier. That's right. It's right up there. She is not standing still. She is going somewhere. Let's pause here and collect ourselves and think about this. Let's discuss this. Let's think and discuss the fact that this largest sculpture in all land and the most iconic symbol of the United States of America. Let's talk about the fact that the statue has welcomed millions of visitors and immigrants to the USA. People talk about her unusual headwear. They talk about her gown, which seems very heavy of a garment and would likely result in serious lower back issues. I understand, statue. They talk about the beautiful torch and the severe look on her face, but not many people talk about the fact that she is walking. This 150-foot woman is on the go. Every time we see the Statue of Liberty in pictures, she is very still, like, well, a statue. But she is moving. She weighs 450,000 pounds, wears a size 879 shoe, and she is on the move. How could people have missed this? Or even if we saw this and noticed this, how is it that we have seen and noticed a 450,000 pound human on her way somewhere? Just another 150-foot woman walking off a 150-foot pedestal. There are certain things we do know. We know that around her feet are chains. I mentioned those earlier. They are broken chains, implying that she has freed herself from bondage. We know that Bartholdi wanted us to know this. He wanted us to see the chains. As I said earlier, they were more visible. People have talked about these chains. In the Statue of Liberty is a symbol of freedom. If the Statue of Liberty has welcomed millions of immigrants to the United States, then how could she possibly stand still? Liberty and freedom from oppression are not things you get or grant by standing around like some kind of statue. No, these are things that require action, courage, and an unwillingness to rest. The Statue of Liberty was not built to welcome just 1,866 immigrants from Italy on one certain Sunday in, say, 1866, nor was she built to welcome 3,000 immigrants from Poland the very next day, the next 5,000 Norwegians, after that 10,000 folks from Glasgow, then Cambodians, then Estonians, then Somalians, Nepalese, Syrians, Liberians. It never ends. It cannot end. After all, the Statue of Liberty is an immigrant too. That is why she's moving. That is why she is striding and welcoming the poor, the tired, the struggling to breathe free. She is not content to wait. She must meet them in the sea. Statue of Liberty.
Thank you. Nice story. I like that. Now what we're going to do every third Sunday, we like to do the meditation of joys and concerns. So we're going to take a minute. We're going to take a minute, sit here in silence, and you are invited to call out the names of the persons you're holding in your hearts, either a source of concern or a cause for celebration. So take a moment and you may share. These names have been heard and honored together in this community. And also, we know that there are certain joys and sorrows that remain private and unspoken. these two have a rightful place here. Thank you. And now, for the service and the message, Reverend Mary Ann Macklin. Thank you.
Your worship associates work hard to bring these services together. So thank you, Stacy. There's a lot that happens during the week and getting stuff together, and I really appreciate that a great deal. Here's the description I put, the blurb, as they call it. I said, as we continue in July 2026, the United States marks its 250th anniversary, commemorating the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. This milestone offers an opportunity for many of us to reflect on our country's history, its principles of liberty and freedom. And I said, Reverend Macklin will share reflections on the symbolism of the Statue of Liberty and on what we need to meet this moment and move forward as Unitarian Universalists while centering in love and freedom. So I wanted to begin with the New Colossus. Now that is the poem, the sonnet by the American poet Emma Lazarus. She wrote the poem in 1883. There was this big contest, it was before the statue got here, to raise money to get it built in the pedestal. And there were, I think, Mark Twain, there were some famous poets, but Emma Lazarus' poem was selected. And the original idea of Lady Liberty was Liberty Enlightening the World. That was the name of the statue. And in 1903, the poem was cast onto a bronze plaque and mounted inside the pedestal's lower level. Now, I'm going to do a little thing we learned in seminary called an exegesis, which means you go through a particular piece of writing and you kind of pull out what's there. And I love this because there's so much in this short poem that she put together. So she begins saying, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame with conquering limbs astride from land to land. So that refers to Colossus, that the name of the poem is the New Colossus. And that was this alleged huge statue in Greece and the harbor of Rhodes. Now, allegedly, it said the statue stood across the harbor, and so boats would go underneath and all of that. Later, they found out that that was probably architecturally impossible, and so probably the statue was standing over here, and then when it finally fell, people went and collected all the stuff and ran off with it. But think of that, you know, and the Greek with the sword, the whole thing. And it says, so, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, which was a lot of like intimidation, symbolizing imperialism, military domination, and really used to show intimidation and conquering. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed Sunset Gate shall stand, there in New York Harbor, a mighty woman with a torch. Not a sword, she's got a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning. And I was like, what is that? Well, electricity was new. So this was huge. She's up there with this thing called electricity, and she calls it imprisoned lightning. A mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. She renames her. From her beacon hand glows wide world welcome. And her mild eyes, again, not tyrannical, focused, command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. And I did not get what that was, whatever. Well, the Brooklyn Bridge had just been built. And that was the first steel suspension bridge. So she calls it an air-bridged harbor because it looked like it was standing there just in the air. It wasn't the usual bridge. And at that time, Brooklyn and New York City were actually separate cities. And that's why she says two cities. The air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. And then there's this thing in literary we call the volta. And that is a huge turn happens in the poem. And the huge turn is the statue begins to speak. And she says, "Keep, ancient land, your storied pomp," meaning your wealth, your aristocracy, monarchy, all of those, your vanity. Cries she with silent lips, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free." What a new message that has for us after this last decade. The wretched refuge of your teeming shore, and she says that, meaning this is what you would call them. "Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me, going across the sea. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." We often hear that last part, but the whole thing is this like, I'm giving you a new image. We are torchbearers as a people here of freedom and liberty. I would say as a people of faith. We're here not to intimidate and conquer, but to protect and illuminate. Lady Liberty is a strong woman. And then I go to one of the saints, our modern day saints. They say, well, who are the modern day saints for us? And often it says they are the poets. Maya Angelou says this: "My wish for you is that you continue to be who and how you are, and to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness." And that came to my mind reading this poem, thinking of Liberty as this incredibly strong person. And this is where I want to talk to you about the difference between kindness and nice. Nice is appeasing. It's not being who we are. We do something because, oh, we should do this or whatever. Oh, I don't want to upset anybody. It's an ego protection. It's what we do to sometimes take care of ourselves if we're scared. I should do this. It's very much in the head. Oh my gosh, I better be nice here. Kindness involves courage. As Angela said, being who and how we are at our core, in our heart. It involves courage because kindness sometimes, maybe always, makes us vulnerable in some way. Again, Maya Angelou, and if you think of Lady Liberty, my wish for you is that you continue to be who and how you are. And I would say in these times, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness, and each of you, that will be something different. And the world seems pretty mean right now. There's so much. I'm like, what do I pick? Which meanness do I pick? Just a sad state of things. I did want to mention that on June 25th, the Supreme Court issued, I call a very, very major decision to end the temporary protected status. And they had it then for specific groups, 350,000 Haitians, 4,000 Syrians currently. And also within that, blocked federal courts from having hearings that may challenge any of this. So just strip away. I think it's a green light to extend any of this dismantling to other nations, other groups. And these people, who are they? They're hundreds and thousands of essential workers right now in this country. They are caregivers, they are healthcare workers, they are agricultural workers. And they are being stripped of being able to live here. The Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom and democracy, a gift from the people of France to the people of the United States, as we just learned. The mother of exiles. I lift my hand beside the golden door. She was dedicated in 1886. And again, one of the big things that initially caused the inspiration was the abolition of slavery after the Civil War. So she was gifted as a symbol of freedom and democracy. And again, that broken shackle by her left foot and the right foot moving forward. But if you think of the date, so Civil War ended 1866. By 1886, so much of some of the freedoms, those who had been freed from slavery, Jim Crow is coming in, all types of things. So many Black writers during that time saw the Statue of Liberty as a great irony. And I think that's probably why the shackles got moved from the hand down to the feet, kind of hide that original meaning of look what we've done as a country. It's more, look what we've done. On many levels, then, the statue symbolizes our country's paradox, freedom and justice for all, perhaps weighted in the foot going forward, as well as the bitter irony weighed in the other foot, where some people's freedom remains shackled as a result of all types of violence and oppression, and as well as the shackles of the mind itself. And that's one of the reasons we gather here on Sunday, to kind of get rid of some of those things we're being told. It just kind of goes in almost like osmosis. And come here and hear the truth be spoken. And that's why I picked the song, Die Gedanken sind frei. No matter what happens, our thoughts are free. And we continue to encourage that in each other. So this Statue of Liberty, it gives us pause to ponder. One of the things I kept going, well, what's the difference between liberty and freedom? That's a rabbit hole that goes, there's a lot of rabbits in that hole. And they reproduce at a miraculous rate. There were two people that I found, oh, okay, that rings. Lisa Hunt, an educator, said, liberty and freedom are often used interchangeably in the United States, but they do have distinct meanings. Liberty can be defined as the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one ways of life, behavior, or political views. It emphasizes the rights of the individuals to be left alone and make their own choices without interference from the government or other institutions. And the idea of liberty is enshrined in the United States Constitution, which guarantees a number of fundamental freedoms. Freedom of speech. I live in Bloomington. I'm watching that get torn down on the actual university campus. Freedom of religion. Recently, the military said Unitarian Universalists are no longer a religion in their idea of religion. Of the press. I don't even need to go into that. Freedom, on the other hand, refers to the ability to act or think as one wants without being hindered by outside forces, which I thought that kind of sounds like liberty, but I get the flip. It's about that self-determination and pursuit of happiness. So I looked for something that might just be a little simpler to understand, and this is what I've found. Freedom is about your gut and your choices. Liberty is about the rules of the society in which you live. So liberty is more the outside in. Liberty is a freedom that is protected and limited by law. It helps us all live fairly and peacefully together. The rules guarantee that no one can unfairly stop me. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, again, a right to a fair trial. So we have these core freedoms that the law protects. Liberty is the guardrails, the safety rails. Your liberty to drive a car is protected, but you have to obey traffic laws so you don't hurt others. It's that piece. And then freedom is more from the inside out. Maybe it's what kind of car you decide to drive, if you do drive a car. And what about freedom from violence? Freedom from violence, for whom? From whom? Freedom from police violence. ICE violence. Voter violence. Is everyone equally protected to vote? This is a big question with the midterms on the horizon. And here I turn to another, I'll put in the saintly realms, the words of Stacey Abrams. Our ability to participate in government, to elect our leaders and to improve our lives is contingent upon our ability to access the ballot. We know in our heart of hearts that voting is a sacred right, the fount from which all freedoms flow. And I love it that she calls it a sacred right. We Unitarian Universalists, the democratic process is so important. And so, yes, this is a sacred right. That's where the courage comes from. That's when, we can't be nice anymore. We have to go out there with our kindness embodied. Now, this past week, I was watching PBS and I was looking at great performances and I saw the great performance of SUFFS, S-U-F-F-S. Has anybody seen that? It's about the suffragists. And it is a critically acclaimed Tony Award-winning musical by Shana Taub. And it depicts the passionate American women who fought for voting rights. It focuses on events from 1930 to 1920 and emphasizes the struggles of the suffragists. And I found out they called themselves suffragists and they were called suffragettes as a way to put them down, like, et, right? So the name of it is SUFFS and their efforts leading to the 19th Amendment's ratification. That even may be under fire right now. So the show explores generational tensions. It shows the internal racism that happened in the movement, and it has key figures like Alice Paul, Ida B. Wells, and Carrie Chapman Catt. And it highlights conceptual and moral clashes as well as necessary compromises. And I'll tell you, I've found it very inspiring because of the times we are living in. It let's see, the production was opened on April 2024. And Shana Taub made history as the first woman to win a Tony Award for both Best Book and Best Score in a single season for her work on SUFFS. So I hope you get a chance to see it. Just go to PBS, go to Great Performances, it's still there. Again, Stacey Abrams, our ability to participate in government, to elect our leaders, and to improve our lives is contingent upon our ability to access the ballot. We know in our heart of hearts that voting is a sacred right, the fount from which all other freedoms flow. What truth does the Statue of Liberty convey to us today? What truth is it conveying to refugees, to the poor, to those yearning to breathe free? And what enlightenment can we find from the mother of exiles? And I want each of you to think, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to members and friends of this congregation? And now I would like to add a poem, and this is called Freedom from Langston Hughes. Freedom will not come today, this year, nor ever through compromise and fear. I have as much right as the other fellow has to stand on my 2 feet and own land. I tire so of hearing people say, let things take their course, tomorrow is another day. I do not need my freedom when I'm dead. I cannot live on tomorrow's bread. Freedom is a strong seed planted in a great need. I live here too. I want my freedom just as much as you do. In that musical theater piece, SUFFS, again, there was a lot about the internal racism that was going on. And at one point, one of the white leaders asked Ida B. Wells, they're asked to march at the back of their protest. And your turn will come. And I do not want my freedom when I'm dead. And there's a song that comes called Wait My Turn. You can definitely tell that some of the music is an influence from Hamilton. But it says, guess who always waits their turn? This is sung by Ida B. Wells, Black woman who always ends up in the back. Us lucky ones born both female and Black. Wait my turn while I sure don't see you waiting yours. There is no your preaching. We demand it now while knocking down locked doors. But you want me to wait my turn so you don't offend your Southern base? Since when does a radical lover fit bigots in the right first place? A powerful song and courageous. My wish for you, says Maya Angelou, is that you continue to be who and how you are, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness. And I would say boldness. The Statue of Liberty is a great symbol of freedom. And it has always, since I was 10 years old, held a bit of a haunting figure for me. I'm 66, so you put your wherever you are in this, but there was a movie that came out called Planet of the Apes. And at the end, there is this moment where the protagonist, played by Charlton Heston, thinks he's on another planet, and he comes around a corner, it's been destroyed, and the Statue of Liberty is half sunk in the beach. You see her torch, you see her crown. And then he realizes what has happened. We have destroyed ourselves. And that, I was 10. That knocked me over. I was just, it worked. And I was reading more about the history of that. And do you know who wrote that piece and came up with that particular image? Rod Serling, right? From the Twilight Zone, also a Unitarian Universalist, very active, by the way. He saw science fiction as a way to get around TV censors and to be able to critique the real world. And so he would cloak a lot of ideas in science and fantasies, aliens, all types of things. And so that's exactly what he did. And if you have not seen that, it is very powerful. But I also keep going, but she still is holding up her torch in the light of truth. Stacey Abrams, our ability to participate in government, to elect our leaders, and to improve our lives is contingent upon our ability to access the ballot. We know in our heart of hearts that voting is a sacred right, the fount from which all other freedoms flow. So, my wish for you, along with the wish from Maya Angelou, is that you all continue to do what you're doing, continue to be who and how you are, and to astonish this mean world right now with your kindness, with your courageous kindness. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you. And for our closing words by Deborah Hapner, wherever we are, love is. As we enter another week of uncertainty in the world, let us remember that there is only one side, that of humanity and planet Earth. May we pray for peace. May we raise our voices with our elected officials and engage as we can in acts of resistance. And may we remember to take very good care of ourselves, each other, and those we love. May we remember these words adapted from the Unity Prayer. The light of love surrounds us. Love enfolds us. The power of love protects us. Love watches over us. Wherever we are, love is.